Welcome back to Cloud 2K, and this is the Cloud Report. So originally this video was going to be yesterday on Saturday, but I was out busy all day and I was like, you know what, let's make this a Sunday Cloud Report and then this week jump back into the 3 videos during the week. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, today, you can see by the title, you're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, who it's been almost a week now since they've been eliminated from the playoffs by the Indiana Pacers in 5 games. And a lot is surrounding this team between obviously the Damian Lillard injury with the Achilles injury, which potentially takes him out all of next season. You obviously have the trade of Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma that it definitely doesn't look great right now. You have a unrestricted free agent, 37-year-old Brook Lopez now. You have real talk that Giannis Antetokounmpo could be leaving Milwaukee. So let's go through, let's break down what I think Giannis should do, what I think the Bucks should do to go into next season, hopefully looking towards contention. And if I'm being honest, I don't know if there's a realistic world where the Bucks are fully back into contention next year, mostly because I think we don't really know what's going on with Damian Lillard as in like recovery process. He could be back maybe like by All-Star break, maybe a little bit earlier, or he could just miss all of next season. And I think if you have a season without Damian Lillard, it's going to be really hard for this team to even think about being contenders, because even with Dame, they weren't really taken super seriously. I had them winning round 1 against the Pacers. I thought if you had the best 2 players in the series, in a Dame and a Giannis Antetokounmpo, or if you want to say Tyrese Halliburton's better than Dame at this point in time, that's fine. But they had the best player in the series in Giannis, and I thought that would matter. And honestly, we've seen it throughout the entire first round so far. It seems like having just the best player on the court doesn't really seem to matter as much as having the better team, because the Pacers, just top to bottom, outside of obviously Giannis, are just a better team, and that was able to pretty much take care of the Bucks. The Bucks really didn't have much of anything going on. They had a couple close games, but for the most part, the Pacers were taking care of business. But I have contracts pulled up here, and we're going to talk about who's going to be right now contractually on the team next year, but what they can do with these players, who they might want to re-sign, or who they might want to just let go. So obviously, Damian Lillard, I'm just going to go into the assumption that he's just not going to play next year. Because if you start, we're just going to make it easier. Say, hey, Dame is out only next year. You're paying him $54 million to not play. It sucks, but it's just what it is. Giannis is obviously under contract for next year, 2026 to 2027, and then the following year has a player option. So contractually wise, let's just say Giannis is on the Bucks next year. We'll talk about that a little bit more later in the video. Kyle Kuzma makes $22 million next year, then $20 million the next year after that, and he will be an unrestricted free agent. I don't know if any Bucks fan want Kyle Kuzma on the roster next year, because obviously he had the big game 1 stinker. Honestly, the whole series was not that great, but obviously the game 1 was really bad, in which he had like no stats at all in 22 minutes of playing. That's just objectively not good. But again, contractually, he's on the roster next year. Brook Lopez is an unrestricted free agent, but at 37 years old, is there even a world you want to re-sign Brook Lopez as the center of, you can't even say the center of future, but like even the center of right now? Because again, the guy is older. He takes some of the craziest shots. Like, I understand Brook Lopez can hit a 3-point shot, but some of the shots I see he takes early in the shot clock are baffling. And defensively, he's obviously lost a step. Rebounding, he just doesn't have that, which you have Giannis, which makes up for it. But still, I don't think Brook Lopez is the center of this team next year. So that's a center hole. Now you have a point guard hole and a center hole now completely broken open right now. Bobby Portis has an option, $13.5 million. I think Bobby Portis is going to take that option and just stay with the team. Maybe he declines it to negotiate a longer deal. I don't know. I don't think Bobby Portis is, I don't think he's great. I think he definitely has his deficiencies, and sometimes he's like a black hole in offense where he just kind of gets the ball and it does his spin move and does whatever he does, and it's not great. He's a fine bench player. He's definitely not like the worst thing in the world to have around, but it's not great. Pat Connaughton's pretty much unplayable. It's a player option for $9 million. I'm sure he's going to take that because Pat Connaughton is not getting $9 million out in the free agency market. Kevin Porter Jr., $2.5 million. There's a world where he just takes this, or he might say, hey, listen, I had a pretty good year, all things considered, I guess for the standards we have for Kevin Porter Jr. I wouldn't be too surprised if he declines that option. They give him like a 2 or 3 year deal worth probably, I don't know how much it would be, like $5 to $7 million a year, because he was decent. But again, I don't know the kind of market he has, because I think he's pretty well unliked across the NBA community because of some stuff off the court. But we've also seen that doesn't always fully matter to teams. So I think Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be here next year. Same with AJ Green. He's got $2.3 million next year. He's one of their only good shooters. I think he's going to be on the team. Then you go to a list of Jericho Sims, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent, that are all they're not under contract for next year. Taurean Prince, I think, needs to be gone. I don't think there's any spot for him on this roster. Gary Trent, I know he had that fumble out of bounds that was pretty much the end of the series. I think Gary Trent's been pretty consistently fine for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him a 1 or 2 year deal because, again, they just desperately need 3-point shooting. So Gary Trent Jr., I think, would be, again, if somebody doesn't pry him away with more money, if they can give him a decent bag, I think he does that. And again, decent bag is, it's not going to be a lot of money, but he's making not even $2.1 million now. So if he gets $4 to $5 million, he might stick around. Andre Jackson Jr., like, he's obviously still in his rookie contract, but he's not been great. He really wasn't playable in the playoffs at all because he can't shoot the ball. Chris Livingston didn't get much run. Tyler Smith didn't get much run. Ryan Rollins, I don't know. It's not a good bench, like, at all. It's a very, very bad bench. So let's go back to the people that are going to be contractually on the roster next year. Dame, we're just gonna watch next season, like I said. Giannis, we're gonna still hold off that conversation. Kyle Kuzma, I think, needs to be gone because he does not fit this roster, this team at all. Like, he doesn't provide the spacing on offense they need and the defense they need, obviously defensively. He does a lot of the same stuff that you got. How do I want to word this? Like, obviously, he's not the same as Giannis. Like, I'm not trying to put that, but he's another, like, non-spacing, clunky body. Like, obviously, okay, you know, he's not even like Giannis. I don't know what comparison I was trying to make there, but he's just kind of in the way of what Giannis wants to do. And I just think, I get it. At the deadline where they made the trade, or when they made that trade for Kyle Kuzma, I understood it to the point of, you had a 30-plus-year-old Chris Middleton that has not been healthy the past couple of years. It's like, you know what, let's just get off his $30-some million, move him to Washington, and bring in a guy like Kyle Kuzma that's 29, that is making about $20 million, and it goes down every year, or down to $20 million a year. The last year of the contract, you're hoping, okay, a couple years younger, a little bit more athletic than this Chris Middleton at this point in time. Maybe that's enough to help bolster this roster for a playoff run, and obviously that didn't happen. I think I would have, looking back on it, revisionist history, obviously, I think they would have just rather took their chances with Chris Middleton because the ceiling of Chris Middleton is much, much higher than the ceiling of Kyle Kuzma. We have not really seen a productive winning Kyle Kuzma since the bubble, really, and that's 5 years ago. Like, that's not something you can just tap back into. He's been in a bad situation in Washington for the past couple of years where he very, very openly said, I'm not here to help these guys develop. I'm here to get my own stuff. And it's like, it's just not a good mentality for being on a bad team like that. Then he goes to a Bucks team, and it's still a bad mentality because, like, they don't have a lot of young talent to try to develop. But when you have Damian Giannis on your team, when you're trying to just get your own stuff off instead of helping the team, it just, again, it creates a black hole in offense. And Kyle Kuzma is just not good enough to be so ball dominant where it's like he's not really helping the team outside of that. I think he needs to be gone. The problem is, I don't know where he goes. I don't know what you get for a Kyle Kuzma. I don't think you get a first-round pick for him. I just don't think he has much value at all, especially after now this playoff sneaker coming off the couple years in Washington, where the first year in Washington, statistically, he was pretty good. But again, statistically, he was the best player in Washington, so it kind of made sense. And then him and Jordan Poole were fine. And then the last year in Washington was not good, and then this year was not good. I don't know what you get for Kyle Kuzma, but honestly, I think if you can look for any type of big man, you do it. And that brings us into the Brook Lopez conversation. Again, I don't think you re-sign him. He's too old. The problem is you need a floor spacing center next to a guy like Giannis. You can't spend a lot of time, a lot of minutes on the court with a center that can't space next to a Giannis who, like, has really developed a mid-range shot and fine. He can not great, but he can shoot the three ball at times. But you want a floor spacing center like a Brook Lopez that's able to kind of obviously pull people out of the paint so that Giannis can do his work into the paint. And it's not really a lot of great ones that are available. It's like you look at like a Miles Turner. I don't think the Pacers are looking to give up Miles Turner to the Bucks, especially because they keep meeting each other in the playoffs. I just don't think they want to make that trade. And then it's like, what other great, you don't have to be great, but what other good spacing centers could they really look at? So I pulled up the 2025 free agency class. We're going to kind of go through some of the top players and say, hey, who could help this Bucks team for what they need? Top players are LeBron. He's a player option, whatever. Fred VanVleet, club option. Either way, I don't think he ends up in Milwaukee. I think he still is in Houston. Kyrie Irving, injured, player option. James Harden, player option. I don't see any reason he goes to Milwaukee. Chris Middleton, player option for $31 million. I think he's going to take that anyway. Julius Randle, player option for Minnesota. I think he takes that, especially because they just won their first round series against the Lakers, who, watch out, I will be making a video about tomorrow because I have a lot to say about the Lakers' future as well. So if you want to tune into the Lakers video, check back tomorrow on Monday, and that'll be that. Okay, John Collins is a player option for $25 million. I don't really see a world he turns that down because he is not getting $25 million on the open market. Again, I understand he's in Utah. He probably doesn't want to be in Utah, but $25 million is a lot of money, so I just don't see any world where he's gone. Then you get to Brook Lopez, who I think is just going to be gone. Clint Capella isn't really the center that the Bucks want. I mean, he might bring some defensiveness, like not even a great defender at this point in time in his career. He's 30 plus years old at this point in time, but I do think, like, I guess he would fit spot minutes. Like, I think I wouldn't mind if they re-signed Jericho Sims. I think in the small amount of minutes he played, he was decent enough. So if you re-sign Jericho Sims, I just wouldn't even bother Clint Capella because I think Jericho Sims could run those like backup minutes, those few minutes a game where you need their starting center to be off. Giannis is off the court. So I don't think it makes sense. Bruce Brown, I mean, he's like, I just don't know what that helps. He doesn't help the shooting, doesn't really help much defensively. I don't think Bruce Brown really, I just don't think he brings much to this team that they don't already have. I mean, he could be a fine wing help for them with a couple of their younger guys, but they don't even have any younger guys because they traded AJ Johnson away to Washington as part of the Chris Middleton trade as well. Malcolm Brogdon, I could see coming back. He's not going to get the $22 million he just got. We're going to say they don't have Damian Lillard next year. So, I mean, Malcolm Brogdon could be come in and run a point guard position. I don't look at you as contenders if you have Malcolm Brogdon running your starting point guard, but I do think with a Ryan Rollins down there, like some of the younger guards, bringing in Malcolm Brogdon for 1 year, again, if Dame's going to be out the whole year, might be fine. Like, that'll help those younger guys kind of learn from one of the most like well-balanced veteran point guards there is out there. So maybe there's a 1 year deal for a 33-year-old Malcolm Brogdon. Then it's Miles Turner, who's a free agent. I do think Indiana's going to try to bring him back. If not, can you afford to pay Miles Turner $15 to $20 million a year? I don't really know. That would be a fine. I think that would help a lot. It would help defensively. It would help the three-point spacing. I know Miles Turner isn't quite the defender he used to be, but like they're pretty bad defensively, so I think anything would help. So let's just say for sake of this video, they sign Malcolm Brogdon to a 1 year deal. You get a 3+1 deal with a player option for Miles Turner. So now you have Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner. That's your free agency, but that's assuming Kyle Kuzma is gone. That's Brook Lopez is gone. You're probably looking at Gary Trent being gone then as well. Taurean Prince is gone. Okay. Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't think they're going to sign him. Duncan Robinson, don't see him leaving Miami, honestly. D'Lo, Karis LeVert, Luke Kennard. Like, maybe Luke Kennard, but then again, Luke Kennard might get around $8 to $10 million. I don't know if you can afford it. The problem is, if you're looking at a guy like Luke Kennard, I'd rather just re-sign Gary Trent Jr. than trying to go out into the open market and bid for Luke Kennard. Honestly, it's just not a great high-end free agency class. Like, we've known that for a while now, and this is a offseason where the Bucks really desperately need to make a change, but I just don't know where it is, and that kind of brings me to the last thing I want to talk about today is Giannis staying with the Bucks? And you know what? Once the series officially ended, I was like, maybe there's a real world where Giannis leaves and, like, we create a crazy sweepstakes of where Giannis goes. That's going to shift the entire league when you have a top 3 player in the world change teams. But the more I think about it, and that's why I waited a couple days to make this video, because I wanted to do more of a, like, thoughts process out versus, like, just a reactionary type of thing. I think Giannis should stay. I think Giannis is going to stay. Off the court, there's obviously the whole thing where that dude is Milwaukee. Like, the whole city of Milwaukee pretty much loves him. He does so much for the community, so much for the team. That's something that it's kind of hard to get if you change teams. If you go to a Miami, to a Brooklyn, you're not going to have that same effect in the community. But again, that's just off the court. The Milwaukee Bucks front office has done a lot of what Giannis has asked to move this team forward. They bring in Brook Lopez for a spacing center. They bring in Drew Holiday for a defensive point guard that helped them win a championship. They trade for Damian Lillard after Drew Holiday started to hit a decline. They thought they could bring in another a superstar type of like Robin to Giannis's Batman. Obviously, that didn't work out, but I don't think the trade was a bad idea. I think it was a good trade in the retrospect of like what you brought in the Damian Lillard. And then they trade Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma, which I talked about earlier. Is not a good trade looking back at it, but at the time, it's like, listen, we're getting a guy a couple years younger, a little bit cheaper that we think can help us right now because Chris Middleton is going through his injuries. I think the Bucks have done a pretty damn good job over the past however many years. When Giannis puts some pressure on the front office, like, hey, maybe something needs to change. They're like, okay, they go out and they make a big trade. They make a good trade. I think it would be weird if after all the Bucks front office has been trying to do to help Giannis then turns around and leaves. I don't think that's something Giannis would do. Obviously, I don't know the guy personally, but I just don't think that's something he would do. I think he's, again, going to put pressure on the front office. The problem this time around is they don't really have much to trade in the sense of bringing in that player. They don't have assets to bring in a Brook Lopez, who Brook Lopez was like in his early 30s at that point in time. They don't have the assets to bring in a Drew Holiday level of player when he was traded to Milwaukee. And they damn sure don't have the assets to bring in a player the level of Damian Lillard. So what are they going to do? I think there's a real chance a good half of this roster is not on the team next year. I think you're looking at Dame being out. Giannis is going to be there. Bobby Portis is going to be there. Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be there. AJ Green. And then obviously Andre Jackson Jr., those rookie guys. I think they're going to be there, but there's a real chance you probably have five new rotation players next year, and that doesn't obviously bode well for like team camaraderie. Like, you probably aren't looking at the Bucks as contenders next year, and by the time Dame comes back, he's going to be 35, maybe 36 years old if it's not until the next season. I think the window for a championship of this Bucks team has completely closed. Luckily, Giannis is 30, so you're probably looking at 4 to 5 more years of him being a dominant force. I think you kind of have to punt next season in a sense. Maybe make a couple trades to like move some older players for a couple picks, or move them. Maybe you get a younger player out of a trade that you hope that blossom. They need to start looking for the 2 to 3 year window instead of the right now, because it's not a good enough team right now.